Halima, are you there? Say hello to us.
Hello, everyone.
There you go. I managed to get in right. I can see beautiful Halima now. Yeah, it makes such a big difference. I prefer my iPad. All right, good. Halima, good evening and welcome. All right, we're a little bit not organized, but not every time this happens. It's here with us this evening, and a very good friend of mine, and I'm sure Diane also knows her well from Kokta, and her book is on gender activism at work. And I thought that it was the most relevant topic that, as the Women's Day month phases away, that gender-based violence is always there, and it never takes a monthly thing. I wish it was only then. But anyway, she will enlighten us as to why she has written that book. I'm going to read Halima's profile. It's very long, but I didn't have enough time to cut down the profile. But sometimes it's nice to get to know people much, you know, as long in a lengthy way as to what they have been doing over the years. Amina, how much of time do we have?
Oh, we've got 30 minutes, so it should be fine. If that's
Okay,
fine with
30
Halima.
minutes. So not much, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time. Halima, if I can pronounce your surname the right way, it's Halima Khunoethe.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, good. She's currently the Chief Director for Capacity Building, a Chief Directorate under the local government wing as the Kokta KZN department, in that department. Now, Halima has worked at all three spheres of government, spending more than 7 years at National Parliament. Ooh, as the first is a female human resource manager, 3 years as at the municipal level, and 10 years at provincial government at senior management levels. And she championed the government strategy, working closely with citizens, corporate, and academic institutions. Halima is a published author. Her first resource book, I must read it, The Smarter Municipality Against the Ills of Local Government, signed by His Excellency, the President of South Africa, our President Cyril Ramaphosa. Dr. Zweli Mkhize and MEC Dube Ncube, the former portfolios in Kokta. So it has proven to be a book highly sought after in the government sphere, as it tackles the lack of ethics, governance, and maladministration in the local government sector. I really like to read that one day. You know, if you got it on, you know, not in the book, but you can send it off to me, you know, so I can read it. I loved the book that I read on gender violence. So Halima's passion for change has pushed her in currently undertaking research for a PhD with UKZN. Good luck. She has immense experience and an impressive track record within government in all spheres of government, including National Parliament, where she was the first female HR manager involved in building the capacity of the state. Halima was the first elected chairwoman of the Women in Management Forum, a position that allows her to exercise her passion on mainstreaming gender issues within the government arena, as she also works closely with NGOs dedicated to the personnel and economic growth of women, youth, and previously disadvantaged communities. So Halima also worked in the international arena as a communications officer for DENOSA during the era of championing the nursing fraternity back into the international space, as she was based in London for this exercise. Halima has undertaken key work study trips to Germany, Russia, and many other countries, also Africa. She served as the election administrator for the first South African democratic election in 1994. She also served on the 2010 KZN Administration Committee with professional links with FIFA, the South African 2010 Organizing Committee. And Halima's second book, The Gender Equity in the Workplace, from 16 days activism to 365 days, how to implement gender equality in a government workplace is a necessary resource for every workplace space towards its clean bill of health. So I think we have a powerful woman here with a lot of revolutionary thinking. And, you know, the main thing is that, you know, the reason why I brought, I wanted Halima to come on, because gender-based violence is very much life-threatening as COVID-19 is. The GBV is considered globally by many health experts as a pandemic within the pandemic. So prior to the lockdown, South Africa had one of the highest rates of GBV in the world. So Halima, before I get into more of my side of it, I would like to ask you to give us a little bit of a background on your book. Tell us about your book. Why exactly, what made you write about gender activism at workplace?
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Chamber for inviting me, and thank you, Chairperson, for introducing me. And I also want to greet all your viewers at home. I think my journey is more a personal one, being a woman who I think has worked within the institutions that I have, and have also come across some incidences personally, and have also seen people around me being affected by gender-based violence. I think the position that's often known by a lot of people around the gender-based violence aspect is when someone is either raped or perhaps killed in the main by their spouse. But there are a lot of elements and activities which are underlying factors which lead to those incidences. And for me, I think being in the position that I was in as a chairperson of the Women Management, I felt it would really be not assisting if one did not pencil such in writing, because I think that is a medium which reaches a lot of people. I've worked in very powerful institutions as a young Black woman. And I think for me, some of the aspects that I came across needs to be frowned upon. And it's also alarming that some of these activities are even continuing at this day and age. I mean, we are a country which has gained its democracy, and yet women is still oppressed. And have we really gain democracy in full if there's such ills in our midst, and if we are not actually denouncing on them. And for me, I felt that it would make a lot of sense and add a lot of value to have these penciled out, because then it will reach a wider scope. But more importantly, it's based not only on my experiences, but also on research. And as a capacity builder, my main focus is on empowerment. And in this regard, I felt that as much as I pronounce on the problem, I also need to bring forward a resolve, how best this particular problem could then be dealt with. And like everything else that happens over time, you cannot therefore expect a solution or a dissolve of it immediately. And my attempt is also in regards to assisting government. Government has put in place a lot of policies, and we've seen some of the various programs that are often undertaken by various departments to work against gender-based violence. We've got the SAPS behind it. We've got the legal fraternity putting laws and often ensuring that those that are often convicted of such crimes pay the price. And we've had also civil society and the NGOs joining the plight of government towards eradicating gender-based violence. So my story really is from a personal perspective, adding on to it my professional perspective, and also adding on to it what is available within the space, because a lot of work has been done, as I have been alluding. There's the National Policy Framework on Gender, the South African Local Government Association, Women's Commission have been formulated to try and come up with various programs to eradicate gender-based violence. So for me, it was more a different angle. As a civil servant, what could I do within my space to add on the voice of the many women and the many organizations and the many efforts by governments, by NGOs, by yourselves. I know, Fauzia, you are a champion of women's rights in your own right as a leader of our community. So for me, I felt that in strengthening the efforts, everyone needs to play a role. And this is how I can play my role as an academic, as a public servant, and just as also a mother, because I have young daughters whom I feel should understand the various aspects that are involved in trying to emancipate women, because they are our future, the youth, and they must understand the roles that they need to play towards ensuring that at the end of the day, as a country and as women within this country, as Mandela had said, women in the country are more than men, and yet they are oppressed even at this day and age. So those are some of the areas that I felt needed to be lifted up, but also putting in place a resolve towards the problem that we are facing as a country. I think I'll stop there for now and engage more as we are conversing on this very important topic.
Yes, indeed, it is a very, very important topic. And Halima, did you, as you said that you did come across gender-based violence at workplace, or was it more sexual harassment that you were exposed to at workplace? Was it sexual harassment at work?
I think
Because
for me,
I tell you, we had a number of such cases at work, and my PA can vouch on that. I had young women coming to me at work to tell me that, listen, so and so have done this, and he wants this, so that I must do this for him. You know, so it always and it stresses the woman. You know, that should I engage in what he wants me to do? You know. So
yeah,
is that what
I think for me,
were you
yes,
exposed?
I think for me personally, I've had instances of being sexually harassed. And I want to really thank my upbringing for being able to stand against those acts which were instituted against me. Because as a woman, I know when you are young and when you are in a midst of powerful men, other people tend to give in. But I never felt I had a reason to, because I was where I was because of my abilities, and I stood fast in my beliefs. And it so happens that I'm a Muslim, and I'm a born Muslim for that matter. And my upbringing and my religion taught me a lot about what is wrong and what is right, and what you must stand for and not give in. And my beliefs were able to see me through. It wasn't easy, because after you've actually pronounced your position against a powerful person, you were then either pushed aside in terms of yourself being acknowledged in the work environment, or your work was just made difficult for you unnecessarily because you didn't give in to what another person wanted, which was, of course, infringing on your rights. And I happened to be a very strong believer of the values that I carried out throughout my years. And I felt it's either I lose my job if I have to, but I will not sell my soul, because it was as good as selling your soul. Because if you're doing something and you know that it's wrong, how do you live with that? And live with that in the environment where you are still going to see the same person. Also labeled as being arrogant, and you are labeled as just not being cooperative, when in actual fact, you are just standing your ground. When you raise your voice, you are shouting. So these are all some of the elements that work against us as women, and those that are weak, because there are weak people amongst us as women, because we, of course, don't have the same background, we don't have the same teachings, and we don't come also from a school of thought. Everyone thinks differently. Others give in not because they want to, but because of their circumstances. So my position has always been standing up for what I believe in. Yes, whilst the aspect or the activity is taking place, you go through a hard time, because then you are not taken seriously. You are often put down in front of other peers just because you stood your ground. You would know that, and the person would know that. And you'll go through all of this hardship, but I feel that enduring that makes you an even stronger person. And in a later instance, I found that the very same people tend to respect you. They respect you for what you stand for, you know. So for me, those are some of the things I felt I needed to share, that the young women, because that's what I have come across as a woman chairperson for the Women Forum. We did roll out a program where we were interacting with the young women, as in the interns in our institution. And it was actually quite horrific to understand what they were going through. And we said that the space was safe. They could talk and be open. Yes, we are management, but we are on their side, because we had already understood some of the challenges, because they were coming to us as individuals in some instances. So we felt that we needed to capacitate them. Hence, we had a program where we wanted to empower the women in the institution of local government. And what the women were narrating and what they were going through, we as senior managers felt ashamed that this has gone on for so long, and we were actually thinking the problem was mild, and yet it was so grave. It was burning, and our responsibility was to then come up with solutions towards how best we can equip them to be able to withstand what they are going through. And we then got the Gender Commission involved, who was able to then take some of the complaints and be able to work with the individuals. Of course, there's the emotional stress that one would have gone through, and that needed also to be attended to through our wellness. So it's in understanding and being alert and aware of your environment that you would be able to make a difference. Because for me, it doesn't make sense wanting to go on an open march. Yes, a march does contribute in terms of the broader platform, but what difference are you making where you are? Because one should start, for instance, in your own household. If within your family that is happening, you should be able to address that, because it's in taking the smaller steps that we can take giant steps. So some of these experiences for me then led me to think about the possibility, because I'm not naive to the fact that if it's happening in one institution, it's happening in most of the institutions. And therefore, what could you do to reach out to that many people? And I've found that through resource books, you are able to reach destinations that you wouldn't have thought you would, and you would be able to reach people that you wouldn't have thought you could. And also be able to empower people that in our ordinary jobs we are unable to, because most people are still afraid and of coming forth. And I feel for me, this book, a person could take and sit in their corner, read it at home, and then understand what their position is and what they can do to get themselves out of that position. Because ultimately, it's also your responsibility as an individual. It's the same as if you are raped. The responsibility is for you to go and report that case. And we often find that during the gender-based violence, I would say, activities that often lead to deaths of women, most women keep quiet in the initial stages. They go through all the hardship and a pattern of being abused, and they often think it's going to get better, I'm going to get out of this, not understanding that once a person has a pattern of aggressive behavior, it's either you get help and they acknowledge that they need help so that they can be helped, because you can't assist someone who does not want to be assisted. That's one. And the second element is you taking the step of protecting yourself, because you have a responsibility to also look after yourself. We as women need to love ourselves enough to understand that if a person infringes on your rights, as in battering you on a daily basis or as often as they feel they can, then you must take matters into your own hands by reporting that person so that their behavior could be curbed and you could be safe at the end of the day. So I think for me, those are some of the key elements that actually led me towards ensuring that this resource book, and I do my work based on research because I'm a capacity builder and an academic. And I've found, and research has proven that whatever is penciled reaches a wider audience, and people who wouldn't have actually taken action after having engaged with a problem statement which is affecting them, and they are equipped with a tool to assist them, because this resource book is also a tool to assist individuals towards ensuring that they are capacitated and are able to then stand up for themselves at the end of the day. So hence I felt if I also penciled a few of the challenges that I've gone through, it will encourage people to understand that they are not alone. There's a lot of us out there. People can see us walking the streets and being poised and all professional and eloquent in our ways of work, or having masters or PhDs, and not understand that we've traveled the same roads that they are. So it's a matter of putting it out there, putting oneself out there to be understood, and also making others understand that you are not alone. You can overcome what you are going through, and equipping them, of course, through the resource book. Thanks, Fawzia.
I think you have told us a mouthful and we learned a lot. Do you think, Halima, that the GBV is linked with the lack of knowledge of women's rights, or even general human rights? Or do you think it's low literacy rate and low awareness of where to get help, or it happens because you're a softie or uneducated, and sometimes it's more prevalent on income basis. You know, if you feel that you are not going to get any income, you rather just sit and take all the abuse from the man. So in your study, have you seen a high rate in such women or the educated women?
I think the studies are proving that there isn't really a specific pattern based on what has been presented. For instance, even the cases that are reported, it's across the board. Now, the research also alludes to the fact that a lot of factors play a role in a woman that gets abused over a period of time. As I said, there are also cultural beliefs that are leaning very much against the oppression of a female, which then leads to them being abused. Because if you look at the element or the term abused, it's emotional abuse, it's a verbal abuse, and then it's of course physical abuse. So it's not really one single factor or one single denomination within our society. So it all goes back to us having to grow up in an environment that allows you as a female person, which is that what research often alludes to, understanding the fact that you are equal to the male counterpart. Because a lot of women, even though I'll just make an example, which was in some of the studies that I've come across, a very highly successful a woman who's also very economically stable, as in they didn't need to stay with their partner because they actually earned more, they were wealthier than their counterpart, but they stayed in this abusive relationship because of the upbringing that they had, which often gave dominance to the fact that you are a woman, you need to be beneath the man, you need to listen to everything that you are told by a male counterpart, and you also need to respect them irregardless. And you also, I mean, culture plays a very relevant role, because then you also culturally bound by certain beliefs that you are brought up by, and religious beliefs as well, that you often brought up by, depending on the society that you come from. So it's a wide spectrum of elements that contribute to a woman being abused and sustaining an abusive relationship for a period of time. So even with the younger generation, we found that through the generations, it's shifted. There's an economical element that is playing a pivotal role right now. Women get abused because they want to be given money. They sustain an abusive relationship because the person clothes them, the person buys them expensive weaves, and the person you know, looks after them. You know, it looks after their upkeep. So and you'd find that this young person comes from a very poor family. These things they would have ordinarily not be able to afford, and therefore they go through this because of the position that they are in financially or ranked. So it's various factors. So there's not really a specific factor that you can say definitely is the cause of women being abused, because even in terms of the ages, it differs, and in terms of culture, there are those components that play a role. So it's a wide spectrum of diverse elements rather.
Yeah, I think culture, religion plays a very important role in this as well. Yeah. Ladies that are present, would you like to ask any questions? Any specific questions you want to ask, Halima? This is the time to do it. Come on, I'm sure your neighbor, your friend, someone might have been abused and you wanted to know something. Or do you think that Halima has covered everything, every aspect? We'll still get her for our conference, no matter what, next year.
Fawzia, I think she's covered she's covered an extent of, what can I say, an array of different things which contribute to women accepting being in a situation where they accept the thing that's not the norm. They know it's not the norm, but they accept it given the circumstances. And I've taken some points of hers that she's got is like, love yourself enough. Many of us don't love ourselves enough. We question ourselves. We don't see our self-worth. And Halima's raised that as a point. She talks about we basically we accept mediocre instead of saying this is not acceptable. We just don't trust ourselves. We have also been conditioned to accept what is not the norm. Even though we know it's not the norm, we accept it because we think, this is what it is. I can't go anywhere else. I won't get anybody any better. Or for that matter, who am I to question my parents? Some people do this simply because they saw it in their parents' home or they saw it in their relatives' home, and they accept that this is the norm. This is what we know. And agreeably, culture plays a very, very big role. We are so conditioned by culture that the norm that we say the male is dominant over the woman is not acceptable in this day and age. Halima also talks about marches and conversations. These are just what we would call side issues. Those things should be put into action. We have policies. Those policies are not being, what's the word we would use? They're not being...
not enacted, They have to be...
they're not being enacted. The policies are there. There's everything there for us. I mean, you go to a police station, if you don't get the right response, You are supposed to take it further. We don't. We just accept, oh, well, he cheated me like this. I won't go back there. I'll go to another police station. Or I'll go to another place and I'll go and do this. And I sit on a channel and this is it. So Halima has basically given us a array of stuff which contributes to our downfall as women.
Exactly. Yeah. The main thing is this, that what we learn from her and from her book is that you cannot just sit back. You have to wake up, wake yourself up and make sure that in other questions, the one would say you go to the police and whether they treat you well and they accept the fact that you were raped. At the conference that came out very clear. And then also when it comes to sexual harassment at work, and if you don't listen to the manager, then the manager starts hating you, because he wants you to do something for him, and also politicians. Politicians, you'll find one of the higher guy may say, you have to sleep with me, then you'll get this position. And you hear that all the time from women, that they have to do that, So why should they do that? And I like what Halima says. She stood by her values. Her values were such that I'm not going to sell my body for you. And at the end of the day, they respect you. Men respect you if you are respectable. And I'm sure, you'd agree with me with that. Any more comments? And also, it's a responsibility of all of us to take action. If we see this amongst our neighbors, abuse in the neighbors, we must do something about it. When I was living in Asheville, I know that, I was so scared when I heard the woman screaming and crying, and I had to investigate as to why certain days she screams and she cries. But I was so scared to find out. And it was too late when he eventually killed her. And you keep thinking that I wish I took the step, to assist her at that time. So lots of these things are on our side to report cases, to make sure that it's not like you're prying into your neighbor's house as to what is going on, but you should assist them. So all of us in position of authority, whether as teachers, religious, or community leaders, we are bound to ensure that action must be taken to register a case of abuse. We have to do it. Okay, so how are we with time, Amina? Are we finished?
Yeah, timing is perfect. There's no further questions from anyone as well.
Any other questions?
Chair, just to say, we'd like to know if the book is available and where can we get it from?
Yeah. Halima, is the book at the normal bookshop? Halima?
Sorry, I was just muted there. Sorry, the book is available. My publisher, I could leave my publisher's details, but it is also at a bookshop here in Hilton. Unfortunately, I stay in Pietermaritzburg, so I could leave behind the details of my publisher so she can be contacted for it. I think with COVID-19, we were just unable to get it out in most of the stores. That would be the mediums. But could I give you her number?
Yes, please.
She's on 071.
Chair, are you taking it down or Zamina taking it?
Can I perhaps share the number with the chamber and then it could be sent through your...
Please.
Okay, no, I will do that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Halima, thank you. Thanks a million. Diane has already wrapped up. And, there are no other questions, no comments, please. So I'm going to say goodbye and salams to Halima. Thanks a million. And we won't forget you for our conference. We would want you to come over because last year we had our Minara Business and Professional Women Conference, and we always have it in two parts, the Womenomics, and the second part of the conference is on gender-based violence.
Oh, okay.
And of course, every time after lunch, and then we have
excellent.
Yes, we have specific cases. Ladies that go through rapes, ladies that go through sexual harassment at work, and ladies that domestic violence too.
Sure.
So we have the actual victims, and they were able to tell us exactly what they went through. And then we have a psychiatrist or psychologist, and also one of the prosecutors from the court. And it worked beautifully because some of the girls went crying to say that this is happening to me for years and I didn't know who to go to. And yeah, what was good for with the psychologist is that she said, this is my rooms and I want you to please come. It's going to be free. You're going to get therapy from me, you know. So I felt that that was fantastic, you know. It was only last year that we didn't divide the conference into two. Last year's conference was totally educational. We had our professors from UKZN who taught us how to do a business plan, and it was only on entrepreneurship. So yeah, the whole conference right up to 5 o'clock was, you know, education. It was purely education, and it went on very well. So next year you are booked for August conference, and we'll see you there. Thank you. Thanks a million. Look after yourself. We love you. We will make sure that after COVID, if you can give us those books, we'll sell it for you too at Minara. Thank you for coming on.
No, Jazakallah so much for having me and giving me this platform. I know that together as women, we can fight a strong fight. Remember, we need each other to actually advance. And as some of your listeners were saying, things become mediocre because we are so fragmented in our efforts. One person is on the other corner, but if we put our resources together, then surely we will be able to be a force to be reckoned with.